Welcome back. I'm that Halloween movie collector, Pat. Thought I'd sneak in one more top five, Christmas themed top five, that is, before Christmas comes and goes this weekend, 2022. So last top five I did was my top five Christmas horror movies. So I thought, well, why not? And they're not all necessarily killer Santas. So I said, well, why not do the top five killer Santas in Christmas horror movies? Thought that would be interesting. So I narrowed it down to my top five. I do have one honorable mention, and I'm just mentioning it simply because I've heard great word of mouth from friends and seen reviews and like what I see in the trailer, and I haven't seen it yet. So my honorable mention is Violent Night, which is out in the theaters now. Have to go check it out. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. So that looks like it might make my top five if I do an updated list next year. So Violent Night, basically, families got under a home invasion by somebody called Mr. Scrooge, and the Santa Claus finds out and goes to his mercenaries to go and help and rescue the family. And from what I understood, it's a whole series of elaborate traps, sort of in the vein of like a Home Alone. So that piqued my interest right there. So I don't know too much about the movie because I've just, from what I've heard, sounds good. Go check it out. It should be streaming. I'm gonna wait till it streams. It probably start streaming right after Christmas, but I'm gonna check it out and let's see if it makes my list next year. So my number five, Robot Santa from Christmas Bloody Christmas. We just did a live watch along last night in the Halloween Collectors Podcast watch along, and we all watched it for the first time. I'll put a link up here. Go check out the live watch along. And we all thought it was great. It was such a lot of fun. Didn't even know much about this. It just popped out of nowhere on Shudder as a Shudder exclusive. It just premiered this month. So it's just a lot of fun. It's very Chucky reminiscent because you do have a robot Santa that I don't remember why they built it or what went wrong with it, but there's like a commercial, you see that this robot Santa built by the government has been recalled for whatever reason. And one in the store that people nearby, the people that are hanging out in this bar, there's this whole group of people, just loses his shit and starts killing people. And it's a lot of fun, some great kills. Good final girl, too. I don't remember her name off the top of my head. She was really, really good in it, but just a lot of fun. Great seeing Jeff Daniel Phillips in there, a non-Rob Zombie movie that he actually appeared in. And it was great seeing him. I love him. He's great in everything he does. But there's some great kills, great sequences, a lot of cool dialogue about music. I'm a big music fan, especially metalhead. So there's a lot of dialogue about that. It's just a fun watch, and let's see if we see more from this franchise because it's gaining a lot of steam, and it should be a lot of fun if they do a part two. So let's see what happens. Maybe this time next year I'll be talking about Christmas, Bloody Christmas Part 2, but we'll see. My number four is a real B cheesy flick killer Santa movie from 1980 called To All a Good Night. So if you haven't seen it, I believe it's on Shudder. It's real B movie material, low budget, bad acting, but it's just a lot of fun. This is unique in the fact that there's actually two Santa killers in this one. Basic premises, which borrowed a lot from Friday the 13th, which came out the same year, is somebody that works at this private school for girls has their child killed. Like they're teasing it, sort of in the bit like almost like the beginning of Prom Night with the little kids, where they're teasing somebody, except that these are teenagers, and they fall off a balcony and they die. Flash forward several years, and now all those these are different kids. It's not even those same kids, but of course they don't care. They're just vengeful people. Turns out the woman, Miss Jensen, who is like the cook for the place, turns out it was her daughter. So she flips shit. So she's one of the killers. And it turns out when the first few killings happen, they do bring the police in, and it turns out the detective that's there is her husband, and it was his daughter as well. So they flipped the script. I'm sorry I'm spoiling this. Spoiler alert. But the movie's 42 years old. So if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It's still a fun watch. So it's cool because it's like Mr. and Mrs. Claus are on a killing spree. I mean, acting is really cheesy. Dialogue is really cheesy. There's a very young Jennifer Runyon in it. If you guys remember who Jennifer Runyon is, pretty blonde from the 80s. Probably most famous for being in that experiment in the college with Bill Murray and Ghostbusters. She was in one of the funniest movies of the 80s, Up the Creek. She's in that. She actually replaced the original Cindy Brady in A Very Brady Christmas. So if you saw her, go look her up. I'll throw a picture up there of her and you'll recognize her from 80s movies. I think I'm sure she's still around. She's can't be that old, but she's in that. That's one of the only redeeming qualities, but it's a fun watch. Go check it out. To All a Good Night, 1980. It's on Shudder. Go check it out. Number three, 2005, Santa's Sleigh. All you wrestling fans should know of this movie, especially if you're a fan of Goldberg, the wrestler. He played the Santa in this movie. Now, apparently, in this movie, he's I get the premise is Santa was originally a demon who lost the bet to Satan, and now he had to go around all these years and give gifts and do good, and now the bet's apparently off, and so he's just back to his old ways and just having fun and slashing. And it's just the beginning sequence alone is just worth watching, where he just slays out this whole freaking family, and it's a horror comedy. So just go watch it. It's a lot of fun. The opening sequence with Fran Drescher, Chris Kattan, James Caan is just, even if, if you don't like the rest of the movie, the opening alone is just great. But it's a lot of fun. Santa Sleigh 2005, I believe. I'm not sure if it's on Shudder. I forget where it's streaming right now, but it's just a lot of fun. So now the bet's off. So he's back to his evil ways, and it's a fun movie. Go check it out. My number two, Evil Santa, is very special to me because it's Harry from Christmas Evil, 1980. We just did a live watch along about a week ago in the Halloween Collectors podcast, and I will throw a link up here. Go check out the live watch along of Christmas Evil. It was the first time the boys watched it. I've seen it many, many times. And it's a very low budget B movie, as usual. I should just be like the cheesy B movie guy, because those are the movies I love. That's what I grew up on, 70s and 80s cheesy horror movies. But Christmas Evil is real good, especially me because parts of the film I were filmed in my hometown of Edgewater, New Jersey. And also, I saw one or two scenes actually being filmed when I was a kid because my grade school was on the same block. It was right down the road from where they were filming. So special for me in that vein. And it's the typical, kid believes in Santa. He sees Santa fooling around with mom, not and doesn't want to believe it's just his dad, which was what it was. Flips shit, not thinking Santa's real. Then as he gets older, he wants to become Santa. So he eventually does. He keeps tabs on all the local kids with a naughty and nice list. And he's just, he just loses it little by little. He works at a toy factory, and it's just hysterical. And that he works at a toy factory. But I'll get to the next one involving somebody working at a toy store. But he goes crazy, and he tries to actually do good in this movie. He tries to bring toys to underprivileged kids that were disabled, and he's trying to keep tabs, like I said, on the kids. But it's just he little by little he slips into his psychosis and starts going after people that don't like Christmas, don't believe in Christmas, and don't believe in Santa Claus, and just starts going crazy. And it's got a little bit of a quirky twist ending. And if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it. I mean, granted, it's a 42-year-old movie, but it's on Shudder. Go watch it. Christmas Evil, Harry, the Santa Killer, my number two, Evil Santa. And no surprise here, my number one Evil Santa, none other than 1984, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Billy from Silent Night, Deadly Night. Go, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's just a fun 80 classic 80s slasher, not just horror Christmas slasher, just a slasher in general, just a lot of fun. So starts off, boy is with his mother and father going to visit, and his younger brother going to visit his grandfather, and who's like in a catatonic state. And then when the parents disappear, they go off into the other room with the doctor. The grandfather's going on about how Santa's coming to get you. You better have been good, just scaring the shit out of the kid. And then on the way back from visiting the grandfather, they see a Santa Claus pulled off on the side of the road, thinking he's broken down. And of course, they want to help him. He's dressed as Santa. Why not? Well, it turns out he had just robbed someplace and killed somebody, and he's a real piece of shit, and kills the father, kills the mother, rapes the mother, and kills the mother right in front of the poor boy. So he's put into an orphanage run by nuns, and it's a strict orphanage because it's run by nuns. 10 years of Catholic school here, so I can vouch for that. And he grows up, dealing with all the shit going on, that he's afraid of Santa and just all the crap. I mean, of course, with the kid would be messed up from what happened to him at that young age. So when he gets older, you think he's normal. They get him a job working at, like I said, of all places, a toy store. and he's doing well. And the owner needs a Santa Claus this Christmas, and who? Why not Billy? Let's get him over there. Let's make him the Santa Claus. So he flips shit being in the Santa Claus suit, which is, I mean, to no fault of their own because they don't know his backstory, but he just loses it, and he's just going after all the people that are naughty and feel like they should be punished because he grew up in that orphanage, and the nuns, well, if you're naughty, you should be punished. So he punishes. There's some great kills, some great sequences in this. You do have, I'm the Halloween collector. You have your little Halloween 6 person in this movie, one young Leo Geter, who would go on to play Barry Sims. Barry kicks ass in Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, and young Linnea Quigley, for all you other horror fans of slash movies, from one of my favorite movies, The Return of the Living Dead. So it's just a fun movie. If you haven't seen it, I know there's a remake. I haven't seen the remake. I'm sure it's not as good. Most remakes are never as good as the original, but one of these days we'll get to that. And there are several other sequels to this too. Part 2 is just an all-out hysterical movie where the younger brother of Billy, because spoiler alert, Billy gets killed at the end of Silent Night, Deadly Night. He becomes a little wacko, and it's just so. Part 2 is worth watching. I've never seen the rest of them, admittedly. Just never. I'm sure they're just worse and worse and worse. Maybe I'll get around to seeing them, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll just do a ranking video of like the worst sequels of Christmas horror movies. So we'll see. But my number one, Silent Night, Deadly Night, 1984, Billy. Great movie. Go watch it. So there you have it. Those are my top 5 evil Santas. List may change next year. Could get some more movies. Maybe when I finally watch Violent Night, maybe that'll sneak into my top 5. Maybe I'll do a top 10 next year because there are a lot more Santa movies out there. Some really cheesy ones, mostly B movie ones. They're not the biggest theatrical releases of a killer Santa. So, but we'll see how it goes next year. So that being said, if you like Halloween collecting, make sure you go check out my Instagram page at that Halloween movie collector where my collection is. I do collectible spotlights, collectible videos, usually on a weekly basis. If you want to be a collector, come on with me and we'll talk about your collection. And it doesn't have to just be Halloween. It could be any horror stuff. I'm just a horror fanatic, music fanatic. I'm just a fanatic. Also, be sure to check out every week on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. I do the Halloween Collectors Podcast over on my good buddies channel, Michael's Horror and Pinball with Michael and Brett. We just talk Halloween stuff, Halloween collecting, horror collecting, music, just about anything. Have a couple of drinks and just get in trouble as much as we can. So go check it out. It's a lot of fun. There's also a Collectors Podcast group on Facebook where we have people join. Let us know topics you like to see, people that want to come on and be guests. Hit us up in there. And while you're over in Facebook land, make sure, especially if you're a Halloween collector or Halloween fanatic like myself, check out the Halloween and Michael Myers Collectors group, where everybody posts their collections, things they're finding, things that are coming out, buy, sell, trade, all that happy stuff. Go check it out. And like everybody place else, you have to be everywhere these days to be seen. I mean, not that you want to see this everywhere you go, but also in the Twitter world, that Halloween movie collector Twitter page is up and running, and also the Halloween Collectors Podcast Twitter page is up and running. So we got a presence everywhere just to annoy the shit out of everybody. So there you have it, my top 5 evil Santas in horror movies. I thought this would have been fun to do. Like I said, it was tough to whittle down just to the 5 because there are some other cheesy ones out there. But let's see what happens next year. Maybe we'll do a top 10. So if you're just watching this video, if you're just watching this channel now, do me a favor, like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. Try to put out videos 1 or 2 a week at the least. Not just necessarily Halloween related, horror related, top 5s, just all fun stuff. So subscribe, like, doesn't cost anything. Why not just hit the damn button? So that being said, hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, Diwali, all those make sure, this Friday, celebrate Festivus. It's a Festivus for the rest of us. Everybody just have a safe, healthy, and happy holidays. And this would be my last video before Christmas. Probably put something out next week, but just in case I don't get to it, everybody have a happy and healthy new year. And I will talk to you soon.